We're going to go over the PMC Xtreme spray gun today, and I'm going to go over a general overview of a little bit of troubleshooting and just an insight of how it kind of functions. So first, we're going to get the tool that was included in your box. It's actually a very cool wrench that has a lot of different uses for servicing this gun. Actually has on the back end here, it's slotted to fit your screen housing. So that's what we're going to do first. We're going to go ahead and remove one of these and go through just pieces. So once we get this removed, as you see, there's a screen on there, an O-ring, a backup O-ring, and that seal. Before you slide off this screen, however, it's important to remove the backup ring and the O-ring. So I go ahead and use just a cleaning pick like this, get in there and kind of remove the backup ring, and then you have the O-ring in there. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that as well. Once those are removed, you can slide the screen off, just like that. So now you just have the seal, and you have a spring under there, and there's another O-ring under here I'm going to show you in just a second. So to remove this seal, actually I like to use this cleaning pick as well and get in there with that spring and kind of easily pry up on it so you can get that seal loose. And once it's loose, it will pop out. You got to be careful, you don't want it to shoot out of there either. So once it's loose, as you see, there's an O-ring on there as well. Now all these O-rings, it's important to go ahead and use weightlifting grease on these before reinstalling if you replace it, to go ahead and get it some lubricant. And then finally in here we have a spring. And actually a tube of that weightlifting grease is actually included there in that box that your gun came in as well. So it's a good idea to go ahead and grease those O-rings when you reinstall. So then on this, we start with the spring first, slide it right back in there. Next will be that side seal with that O-ring on it. That goes in next, that'll just kind of snap into place. Next you'll put the screen back on. Then you can put the O-ring on. And then after that we'll have that backup ring. We'll put that in as well. And the backup ring actually goes towards the top, and that O-ring is going to be below it there. And everything's back installed. You can just screw it right back into place. And then once you kind of get it started, you can go and finish tightening with this, but I'm going to leave it loose and I'll kind of explain that a little bit later here. The next thing I want to go over is removing your ejectors here. So kind of just unscrew that one set screw here. With the tool, this tool is also included in your gun box with your gun. This will just come right off. Put that to the side for now. Then next we'll go ahead and remove your spray tip. And there's various sizes for this spray tip. And this kind of determines the width and size of your spray pattern. The larger the number, the wider your spray pattern will be. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this. Because it is necessary to remove this head so I can show you that mix chamber as well. Now when I take this off, there is an O-ring on there, as you see there. There's also these little ports around the larger spray tip, and all these is important to drill them out. In your gun box also there's a small drill bit and a larger drill bit. The smaller one is good to use for your mix chamber and for these little ports here on the side, all these smaller ones around the outer layer there. And then next, I'm going to remove these two bolts here, and that actually fits this as well, which makes it really handy to service your gun. All the tools are already included. And once we get those out, this will just slide just straight off the end there. And this is your mix chamber here. And there's a number stamped on top of there, and that's the size of your mix chamber. And as you see, there's little ports on the sides. If you ever get like a buildup of pressure, like your A side's running a little high, it's good to check that screen that we just looked at, or it could be time to go ahead and use that small drill bit and drill out that small port there, because you could have a little bit of buildup of material there. And then we're going to look at the safety feature on this gun. There's actually check balls, one underneath the A side, one on the R or the ice on resin side. And it comes with this tool here that we're going to use to remove it. So there's actually a little groove that this tool will slide in and pop it out. So once it's popped out, you have a spring inside of there. I still left it in there. And then you also have a check ball and then a little seat for that check ball. So what this is for is if you have high pressure coming in one side and lower pressure coming in the other side of this block, you won't go through the mix chamber and feed it up the whip hose. It'll actually stop it from crossing over with this nice feature. So that spring will be first, the check ball, and then the base for that check ball will be next. Pop that back into place there. Now for the reinstall, it's actually good to loosen your side blocks here, or excuse me, your screen housing on both sides. It makes it much easier to slide on. Once you have those loosened up, you want to make sure you have it oriented correctly. There's actually 2 pins down here. There's actually a slot for both those pins on this block. So make sure you line it up properly, get those pins in place, and then once you have it lined up, you go ahead and put these 2 set screws back in. Alright, and then next you can tighten these back down. And once you get them good and hand tight, you can also use this tool again to finish tightening it up. And then we'll install the spray tip again. And it's good to put grease on that O-ring there as well before the install. And I like to get that nice and hand tight. Again, you can also use this tool, which is actually the middle groove here. Will actually be used to tighten. And then finally, we'll reinstall the block. So just that one little set screw here. And that's it. So now that we're done spraying, we'll want to bleed off our pressures, put the machine into retract, and we'll bleed it down to about 500 psi. Then at that point, we'll want to drill the tip of our gun and grease it. So to drill it, we want to use a small drill bit that's included in your box and actually use it in these small ports that you see here around that larger port. And this is important to note that these holes aren't straight forward, they're at an angle. So you want to make sure these are clear and clean those out. The next you want to use is a larger drill bit that's included on the main tip there. You just thread that in, pull it out, and do it a few times. Make sure that it's really clean and there's no buildup in there. Then now that we're finished with that portion of it, we'll go ahead and move over to the greasing. So you'll have this grease gun. Again, it is also included, and you'll have a grease point here in the front of the gun. You want to place this on top of the gun there and give it a shot of grease there. And then once you're done with that, you should be all set.